Hello, everybody. We're just taking a few minutes. Welcome to the presentations. That'll take a few minutes until we get other folks online, but you are here for the Contract Packaging Association Economic Trends, 10 Global Trends Defining Consumer Behavior in 2021. So in about 30 seconds, we will begin. All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the CPA virtual experience. Today, the CPA, the Association for Contract Packagers and Manufacturers, is pleased to present a session titled Economic Trends, 10 Global Trends Defining Consumer Behavior in 2021. Today's session will dig a little deeper into the trends shaping our world and the challenges we may face this year. We'll hear about new consumer trends in this emerging post-COVID environment. More importantly, a little peek into what we might see for the future. Introducing myself, I am Ron Puvak, Executive Director of the Contract Packaging Association, your monitor. I'll give you a short overview of CPA. The Contract Packaging Association has been around for almost 25 years. We focus on how we help not only the industry and our members, but everyone who needs help from a standpoint of product. We do it a lot of different ways through industry exposure at trade shows and conferences and this webinar, for instance, and education. We do a lot of partnering with educational associations. If you take a look at our website under education, you'll see a lot of opportunity for you to be able to take education on packaging, machine maintenance and updates. And we actually have a new session up there about just contract packaging in general. And networking, of course, we have an annual event. We're at Pack Expo shows and other trade shows like Natural Products Expo shows and the Snack Show. So we're looking to network with folks. And also probably the biggest piece of our tool belt is the RFQ tool. We have almost 1,000 RFQs a year show up at our site where people are looking for help to produce a product or package it, and it's free to use. And once we get the information, we send it out to our members and they respond directly to our members. And for more information on that, please look at our website at contractpackaging.org. This year, CPA has launched a new and novel virtual program that will run for 6 months. And we're almost over halfway through. Each third Tuesday of the month at 2 p.m. We're offering a unique look at a focused topic driven by leaders in the industry who will hope you'll join us for these sessions. If you even want to register now, you get access to the previous sessions as well as the upcoming sessions. We also want to expressly thank our sponsor, our session sponsor today, Viking Mazik. To learn more about their complete offerings, you can access them via the website at vikingmazik.com. A few housekeeping items. All attendees are on mute. At the end of today's session, a brief survey will come your way. Please provide us your feedback. The entire webinar is being recorded. Within 24 hours, an email will provide you the link to the recorded session. In addition, all registered attendees are into a drawing to win a prize donated by Laco Tool. John Bilecki of Laco Tool will reach out to the winner in a few days. So good luck. So let's get started. Today's topic, economic trends, 10 global trends defining consumer behavior in 2021, but delivered by the highly respected influential group Euromonitor. Their timely and insightful reporting used by top global companies to plan and react to changing trends. Due to the complexities of the material and the time zones we're encountering today, the session is going to be presented as a recording. However, stay tuned because at the very end, we have a live Q&A session will be offered at the end of recordings. As you see, we have our panelists up there and you notice they're not static, they are moving around. So they will come back at the end and answer any questions you might have. So let me introduce who will be part of this presentation. Alison Angus, Head of Lifestyles Euromonitor International. Alison heads up the Lifestyles and Megatrends research focused on understanding consumer behaviors, attitudes, and shifting trends, interpreting these into informative and useful insights to support business and strategy planning. Alison has worked in research for 20 years, covering consumer goods, home entertainment, and service sectors. She brings extensive knowledge and expertise on producing informative, and insightful analysis. Rosemary Downey, Global Head of Packaging Research in Euromonitor International. Rosemary is the Head of Packaging Research at Euromonitor International and drives the quality and evolution of Euromonitor's global packaging research. She joined Euromonitor in 2002 as part of the central team that set up the company's global packaging information system, which provides clients with strategic insights across the food, beverages, beauty, and personal care, home care, and pet industries. David Mackinson, Research Manager, Euromonitor International. By the way, David is in Chile right now, so he's very remote, as well as the other two are in the UK. David has a Master of Arts degree in Economics from Georgetown University, and a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Science from the University of Illinois, Urbana Champaign. Excuse me. He manages the international team of analysts that cover FMGC in Latin America and is responsible for Euromonitor's relationship with the most important companies in that region. He has a deep understanding of corporate activity in the region and current trends in packaging. Of course, all of these bios are on our website. So now that we've introduced the folks who will hear live Q&A at the end, Marco, would you please get us started?
I'm Gina Westbrook, and I'm Director of Consumer Trends here at Euromonitor. Today, we're discussing the top 10 global consumer trends which we know will be of key importance in 2021. I was really lucky enough to lead the process of identifying them, supported by a huge team. The world changed for good and bad in 2020. The coronavirus pandemic affected us all, and we acclimatized. Emerging habits accelerated. How we behave, spend, and consume will never be the same again. In 2021, we're adjusting our actions. These differ amongst consumers, and sometimes they conflict. We want to make the world better, either for our own sake or for humanity's. We want new ways to make life both convenient and safe, inside and out. Where we are in control, we're balancing our time creatively. Amidst the anxiety and turmoil, we seek holistic, resilient solutions, more thoughtful consumption, and sometimes look for ways to fight back. So resilience and adaptability are the driving forces behind Euromonitor's top global consumer trends in 2021. The pandemic created, influenced, or accelerated each, forever altering consumer behavior. Despite the hardships faced in 2020, consumers haven't given up. They continue to find their voice and push forward for a better tomorrow. So before looking at the trends in detail, our head of lifestyles, Ali Angus, is going to round up the consumer landscape in 2021.
Thank you, Gina, and welcome everybody. Before getting into the trends, let's just have a look at how the global consumer landscape is looking for the year ahead. So on the left-hand side, we'll start by looking at the global population and how that breaks down by age group. And I think a couple of things stand out. First of all, our aging population continues to expand. Those aged 65 and over represent more than 10% of people worldwide, and that's slightly more than it was when we spoke a year ago. Being such a vulnerable group, COVID has really served to further heighten our focus on protecting them and providing for their needs. I guess they, along with us in 2020, have had some big changes to their core habits. Especially, I highlight their use of technology, which presents a new online crowd for businesses to think about. I also want to highlight the young adults and middle youth, so that's the 18 to 44-year-olds, in other words, millennials, and a chunk of our Generation Z, which make up around 40% of the global population. So that's more than 3 billion consumers. These are obviously key for business, not only because of their sheer size, but they are also hugely influential. They influence each other, their parents, their grandparents, and despite, yes, they're facing challenges in terms of income and wealth accumulation because of COVID and because of the recession we're now going through, they will have increasing spending power. So talking about spending, let's look at the consumer spending situation. What what we know is that COVID has had, an awful impact on the global economy in 2020. The number of low-income consumers increased as businesses failed, jobs were lost, or at least people have had their hours cut. Even the most affluent or those still working and earning weren't spending. No one's going anywhere. So clearly consumer expenditure took a downwards tumble in 2020. In this year, we still have uncertainty. We still have contagion. However, vaccinations for one are building confidence, and we expect consumers to be spending more in 2021. Hopefully, we'll just be doing more again. And in some areas, that's already happening. For others, it will likely be later in the year. But we do expect a bit of a spending spike for those that can afford to. People are going to rush to get some form of normality, even for a short period of time. And I think what we should say here is that in the main, we do expect consumers to be much more cautious with their spending generally, whether they're financially struggling or not. Uncertainty will reign and value for money will be key. So the other area I want to touch on is the digital landscape. New technologies are creating massive upheavals in customers' expectations. COVID has accelerated the move to digital for many people. Every company now finds itself embarking on a digital transformation in order to just stay relevant, let alone move forward. And therefore, it's really important to understand this digital landscape. So some statistics: 57% of the global population are now online. There are 4.4 billion internet users globally, and 93% of mobile phone owners have mobile internet access. Technology is a key driver of consumer trends, but never more so than what we're seeing now. COVID has transformed our lives and pushed even the most skeptical, and like I've mentioned, the aging online. We do regular what we call voice of the industry surveys, where we survey business professionals to get their insights and feedback. And in a recent survey we did talking about the impact of COVID, 20% of the respondents think that the move to digital has been fast forwarded by as much as 3 years. And on top of that, there's this clear thinking from them that many of our newly formed online habits are here to stay, most notably online shopping, but even how we work, how we learn, how we interact and socialize. So yes, we will go back to our in-person lives, but not completely. We'll continue to embrace the digital world as well. And that means both these ways of life, so in person and online, are creating opportunities for business. So let's look at the trends themselves and the opportunities that they do actually present. So I'll start with David Mackinson, who's our research manager in our Santiago office, who's talking about restless and rebellious. Over to you, David.
Consumers are fed up. Distrust in government has become the norm, and attacks from populist leaders on science and journalism mean that trust in information sources is extraordinarily low. Bias and misinformation are muddling what should be clear, resulting in a crisis of confidence while the world faces perhaps its greatest challenge in a century. Metrics of disillusionment from prior to the pandemic illustrate the severity of this issue. The pervasive distrust in media and online content means companies have an opportunity and an obligation to ensure that their brands do not appear on conspiracy sites and that their marketing dispels misinformation. Companies can cater to the restless and rebellious by pressuring social giants to take on misinformation, while brands can help consumers spot what is questionable by having an outspoken voice on social media and by actively interacting by shining their spotlight on the facts. In developing regions like Latin America or Asia, where nearly 3/4 of residents get their news almost entirely from social media, This is vital. Nearly a year's worth of quarantines and stay-at-home orders mean that consumers, having suffered and gone without, are rebelling, putting their own needs and wants first. The proliferation of illegal parties is the most vivid example of this trend, showing how consumers expect to continue to live their lives as they see fit. After the lockdown was lifted in China, buyers flocked to luxury brand stores. A shipment of rare bags led to French fashion luxury brand Hermes selling $2.7 million worth in Guangzhou in a single day. The restless and rebellious are shopping extravagantly after having been restricted and homebound for months, an activity now coined as revenge shopping. Disillusioned consumers have also plugged in more during 2020 than at any point in history, and we can expect that to continue well into the future. Video game sales have skyrocketed, and the new PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X are already flying off the virtual store shelves. More precise marketing via gaming will be key for a company navigating the choppy waters of 2021. The PepsiCo brand Mountain Dew, for example, had already increased its sponsorships with esports leagues and already advertises on Twitch and Facebook. The company spent 40% of its marketing dollars in 2019 on reaching gamers. The global pandemic has shaken up countless lives across the world, testing our mental resilience, restricting experiences, and provoking economic shocks. Millions have been forced to reconfigure their daily lives. Many more have lost their jobs. And on top of that, there isn't even a bar open where we can grab a drink and forget about it all. Many consumers who are accustomed to addressing the symptoms of anxiety and deteriorating mental health are now forced to face the underlying causes. The pandemic has stirred up people's understanding of themselves and their place in the world in pursuit of a more fulfilled, balanced, and self-improved life. Businesses that offer products and services that support resiliency, whether for mental well-being or to help consumers weather adverse shocks, will gain trust from these consumers. The toys and games industry is perhaps the biggest winner of 2020, with sales in educational and hobby-related toys and games expected to increase throughout the forecast period. Finding calm amid emotional upheaval has been a focus of the packaged food industry in 2020 as well. Consumers seek comfort in the familiar, and General Mills has seen sales of its iconic brands rise. For example, the company has leveraged the release of retro brands such as Golden Grams. Nostalgia is a marketing strategy when consumer confidence is shaken and shoppers are less eager to try new products. Meanwhile, recent research by Oracle reports that 78% of the global workforce stated that their mental health was adversely affected, with more stress as the most common factor. US-based Wobot Health is a chat-based tool that provides clinically validated therapy programs to address mental health challenges. A study demonstrated that Wobot led to significant reductions in anxiety and depression among people aged 18 to 28, supporting the efficacy of AI therapy. Workers in China and India are those most open to talking with a robot in lieu of their managers, which suggests that the most viable opportunity to expand such services is in these markets. Regardless, we can expect AI therapy to play an increasing role in our mental health.
Oh, thanks, David. Now over to Radhika Singhal, a consultant based in our Singapore office, who looks at two of the trends, starting with the thoughtful thrifter. Radhika, can you explain what's causing this trend and what it means in terms of future product and service needs?
Certainly, Gina, thanks. Economic turmoil that came hand in hand with the health crisis really led to the rise of thoughtful thrifters. Now, what this means is consumers are increasingly frugal, and especially with the fear of the unknown, are really choosing to increase their savings whilst curtailing discretionary spend, essentially as they see it as an insurance for the unforeseen. Rather, the trend is more pronounced in countries which are seeing a resurgence in COVID cases and related lockdowns, as the businesses there, really continue to grapple with the unfortunate economic realities of the pandemic. Then if I were to, speak in terms of product categories, I would say essentials are impacted to a lesser extent indeed, but rather price elasticities are changing across product categories as consumers downgrade to private label in commoditized products seeking better value for money. In terms of consumer segments, though middle and high income consumers are more resilient to the pandemic, but essentially the anxiety wrought by COVID-19 will cause consumers to planned, thoughtful buying, leading to a shift to rational, sustainable consumption across all consumer segments. Now, what this means for businesses is that we really recommend them to invest in value for money propositions, which I agree is contrary to the premiumization trend driving the consumer goods industries in the recent past. Yet any premium attribute in the present times will need an endorsement with an empathetic narrative, as well as a strong tie-in with health and wellness, or maybe self-care, or even mental well-being that many are seeking in their daily lives in the current world.
How are we seeing business respond?
So, we see that companies are undeniably embracing new consumption habits, essentially reinforcing the concept of affordability more strongly, but rather without sacrificing quality. So many are implementing buy now, pay later solutions, which I would say, is essentially a great pitch to the financial cautious, cash-strapped, safety-obsessed consumer, encouraging them to shop full price and increase their basket size. So a case in point here we have is that of Atomi. So Atomi is a new buy now, pay later solution launched in Southeast Asia amid pandemic peak last year. So it now has tie-ups with close to 2,000 online and offline merchants, really supporting the retail sector recovery in the region, essentially Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Hong Kong. So the way it works is that, it really splits the bill in 3 equal installments, 0 interest monthly installments over time. And this is done either by scanning a QR code at a physical shop or choosing Atomi during checkout on partner merchant's website. And we've seen that each of its partners has seen an average 20 to 30% increase in average order sizes and conversion rates since adopting the service. Next, we also believe, strong shift to value consciousness is boosting the sharing economy, really reimagining rental, resale, and remade business models with a tied-in positioning around affordability more so than also, but accessibility and sustainability. So Kumo Wells in Korea tapped into the fast-growing trend for renting home appliances with its launch of a mixed sharing and rental service for used appliances in February 2020. So I would say, really the appliance rental market was already growing before the COVID-19 outbreak. But what has happened is it's really soaring now during the crisis, with massage chairs and clothes dryers proving especially popular. So we are really seeing a growing number of companies such as Samsung, really turning their attention to the rental market as consumers struggle to afford new items.
Well, it's hardly surprising we're becoming safety obsessed when any public touchpoint becomes a potential source of a deadly infection. Efficiency and cleanliness are no longer trade-offs, but the expectation. This is the new wellness movement. We want clean air was one of our 2020 trends. Who'd have thought? In 2021, unattended commerce and e-commerce will be widely adopted. Unnecessary human interactions will be minimized. Service and payment industries were among the first to respond to the need. Society was already moving towards cashless payments, and like so much else, the pandemic accelerated this and will continue to do so in 2021. Of course, hygiene products are the main beneficiaries of our safety-obsessed trend. And it's not just surface cleaners and hand gels. COVID-19 sparked innovation that prioritized sanitation as a critical product feature. Just look at Hire's self-sterilizing air conditioner for the home and witness how global sales of steam vacuum cleaners soared in response to safety obsessed. Fear of infection pushes consumers towards contactless solutions to avoid exposure. There are 2 really great examples here. From the US company Enclave, SafeQ provides both consumers and businesses with a solution for people enduring the extra queuing brought on by social distancing. It's an anonymous app that uses GPS to locate consumers and lets them join virtual queues with a tap on their phone. It allows them to stay away from the crowd whilst tracking their spot in line. For the business, the app eases tour operation and gives a traffic limit, which is instantly visible to users. Demand for touchless has soared in museums and exhibitions. These venues are looking for ways to bring visitors back safely without diminishing their user experience. Ultraleap is a UK tech company developing hand tracking interfaces, a perfect replacement to the touch screen displays which had become so popular but are now a real no-no. The interface captures users' hand movements with motion sensor data and using infrared LEDs generates a virtual model. This kind of tech will power new generation interactive and crucially safe installations for museums, exhibitions, and potentially many other commercial user experiences. And now back to Radhika, who's going to talk about the catchily titled Phygital Reality, where reality and digital collide.
Thanks, Gina. So phygital reality, I would say, by definition, is essentially a hybrid of physical and virtual worlds where consumers can seamlessly live, work, shop, or play either in person or online, wherever they choose to be. So 2020 saw consumers embrace internet-connected devices and virtual experiences like never before to maintain their daily routines while stuck at home. So the pandemic really accelerated the use of video conferencing, smart appliances, augmented and virtual reality try-ons, virtual concierge consultations, or live streaming, essentially forming new habits around working, shopping, and exercising, which are certainly here to stay for the long run. So now what we see in 2021 is will indeed see a continued acceleration of integrating virtual processes and physical spaces to give consumers an avenue to engage from the convenience and comfort of their homes. However, alongside, we'll see increasing adoption of connected experiences at physical retail, such as mobile reservation and queuing systems, virtual fitting rooms, or maybe use of QR codes for touchless menus and label descriptions, or even essentially in-store mobile apps for a safe contactless checkout experience. So we say businesses really need to embrace a phygital reality strategy to succeed in the new normal, which they can do, either using apps to facilitate on-site virtual experiences, or essentially by partnering with technology providers to recreate in-person occasions virtually at home. We really believe businesses that replicate consumers' favorite aspects of in-store shopping online, including shopping with friends, browsing displays, soliciting advice from sales associates, or even trying on products, will develop a loyal customer base. So the examples we have here, first one is that of Zeekit, which is a dynamic virtual fitting room where one can upload their photo and virtually try on clothing regardless if shopping online or in store, whilst at the same time taking into account body dimensions, fit, size, as well as the garment fabric. So this technology really brings image processing, big data, e-commerce and entertainment together to truly revolutionize the shopping experience. In fact, brands like Macy's, Adidas, and ModCloth are already some of the early adopters of the service, as virtual fitting rooms enable consumers to purchase clothing they know will fit them properly without assuming the risk of trying them on in store or having to return them if unfit when purchased online. According to Zeekit, early data shows the service has helped reduce return rates for partners by 36%, easing one of the key pain points of online apparel retailers. Then another case in point is, with large in-person events canceled, representing key marketing opportunities for brands, companies really lean to virtual events, in turn realizing a golden ticket, I would say, to reach a much wider audience that can be continuously engaged digitally, spanning across multiple platforms. So we saw several sportswear companies such as ASICS launched virtual run challenges last year as physical marathons were canceled. So what they meant was that, upon signing up, runners received a race pack and access to a training program, just as they would for a large in-person race. And as and when runners completed the run on their own, they were asked to upload their results to ASICS Runkeeper app, where they can compare the performance to that of other runners and win prizes. So this truly enabled ASICS to deliver safe, memorable, interactive experiences to its consumers, no matter where they were, but also alongside, gathering valuable data and consumer insights driving sales.
Oh, thanks, Radhika. Convenience has long been a key trend, but last year suddenly everything became very inconvenient. In 2021, we'll see these wrinkles ironed out. COVID reduced impulse occasions and walk-ins are now pre-planned. Consumers are craving convenience back and relying on digital to obtain the same old level of flexibility. Digital commerce provides a seamless experience, but without the in-person component that consumers value and are familiar with. Digital usage varies among generations, as Ali's already said. Businesses need to account for the disparity between what customers of different ages perceive to be convenient. Broadly, younger consumers prefer digital interactions, whereas older generations prefer talking to humans. Guaranteed product availability or subscription services can minimize or eliminate the number of shopping trips needed or the number of stores visited. New solutions like QR codes on socially distancing ground markers allow consumers to browse menus or perhaps search products while queuing to enter or pay. The goal is to offset COVID-related inconveniences and recapture an experience that feels normal. Well, this sure strikes a chord for me. When we can go back into a pub, it will be really great to be able to get table service without battling at the bar to be served. Businesses are under pressure to adapt their operations fast and develop a resilient customer experience whilst maintaining the convenience we crave. Solution-based products and services will drive craving convenience forward. High-touch and relationship-driven businesses can test self-serve, touchless, or unattended operations. This is a really nice example from the UK's Currys PC World. Shop Live is a video calling service offering in-store experts who can help people shopping online and replicate that in-store experience as a virtual visit. Pop-up messages ask customers if they would like advice on their purchase. They only need a microphone to participate. They don't need to type anything out. They can also get the convenience of being able to fact check or compare prices from the comfort of their own home. Mirroring that in-store customer experience with digital convenience overcomes the disparity between young and old consumers' preferences for online or personal interaction. The second nice case study is Tala, a coffee roaster and shop just outside Chicago, Illinois, that typically sees bursts of local consumer traffic throughout the day. The business adopted QR codes to allow customers to see their menu while they were queuing. The 6-foot spacing of the QR codes on the floor emphasized social distancing. Customers can speed up their interactions at the counter, having already browsed the menu. They aren't being forced into online payment, something not all customers are comfortable with, and they can still talk to the bar person if they want. Now over to Ali, who will be looking at 2 closely connected trends.
Thank you, Gina. Okay, so the next trend is workplaces in new spaces. We were already seeing the gradual shift to working from home for more people, but 2020, as we know, saw this literally happen overnight for many of us. And now we're actually seeing this become a more permanent move to remote working. I think, yes, we're going back to offices, but less frequently. And there is this much more blended approach to how and where we work now. So this has disrupted businesses. They've had to adapt to facilitate remote working. In terms of what they're doing, again, I go back to these voice of the industry surveys we carried out, and we can see some data here. The most notable actions companies were taking included obviously ensuring employees have the tools and technology to do their jobs, but also adapting work patterns, increasing communications, and overall providing for both physical and mental well-being of staff. So companies have had to invest to keep operating, but while also looking out for the welfare of their people. And I think the implications of this trend and the change in the way we work has got much broader implications on consumers' lives and how and where business operates as well. Organisations are having to rethink the use of their office spaces, which aren't being used as much as previously would have been seen. And even if they are still in the right location, that's something they're questioning as well. Employees themselves are having to create workspaces at home and learning new daily habits and routines. So if we think about it, one thing that we're doing is commuting less, and that means we've got to think about how to redefine the beginning and end of our work days. We need to think about how to manage our time better, to manage it differently, and learning to shut down our computers even though we don't have a train or a bus to catch, learning how to switch off and relax, and also how to move during the day if we're not being forced out of our homes to go to work. So for consumers, they're looking to business to provide them with products and solutions that help them do that. Then we have things like on-the-go snacking, grabbing a coffee, lunch breaks, socializing with colleagues after work. That's all shifted into the home or become more localized. So that means new business models are needed to leverage that. And this is where maybe even companies have to think about where they're located. And then another key area is where and how consumers shop. For much of that's changed, not just online, but fitting shopping around new at-home schedules rather than on the way home. Then we have how consumers look and dress. That's shifted to a much more casual appearance. So companies across multiple industries are really having to rethink their portfolios, their positioning, and how to appeal to consumers who are just doing things differently. So I think for businesses, they really need to take both an internal and external view about how to respond to this trend. So supporting the needs of the business itself, its employees, and its customers. I've mentioned both companies and consumers here and having to rethink their workplaces, and that's what the examples I'm going to show today talk to. So the first one is Remo, and Remo is one example of a video virtual workplace facilitator that helps business to recreate that office experience remotely. So it uses 2D mapped rooms where employees can virtually go in and sit around tables, have meetings, catch ups. They can move around the room, into other rooms, and generally network, have casual chats or formal meetings, whatever it is they need to do. So it's all about enabling face-to-face interactions, collaboration, just like you would in real life, but doing it remotely. On the other side of things, for the employee's perspective, they have to adapt their homes to create the right workspace. And Very Good Box is a multifunctional home furniture solution that optimizes small living spaces. So employees could be using Very Good Box because it has adjustable and embedded parts. So thinking about workstations, office chairs, it lets consumers create home offices, whether it's in their bedrooms, their living rooms, and potentially even outside spaces. Not everyone's got room for a separate office at home or is able to build an office in their gardens. So consumers are looking for alternative ways of creating the right working environment at home that enables them to focus and differentiate work and play. So the next trend is playing with time. I've just discussed the shift to more working from home, and that's a key factor that is changing many consumers' day-to-day lifestyles. But as well as that, even after vaccinations, we expect there's still to be quite a bit of uncertainty about the virus, new threats, even thinking about what else might come along and disrupt our lives. So consumers will continue to spend more time at home and online in the future. And that has and will continue, therefore, to change people's daily routines. It's given people more flexibility to do things differently. they can multitask throughout the day. So thinking about attending appointments, doing your grocery shopping at lunch, running errands, maybe doing a workout in a break, and of course, giving the kids attention while you would normally be commuting. The kids are at home, so they need more of your attention because you are at home more. So that all these things are leading consumers to rethink their home life and daily schedules, become a lot more creative to leverage this flexibility and how to use their time wisely. Before COVID, time was a critical requirement for so many people. In our 2020 lifestyle survey, over 50% of respondents prioritized just making time for themselves. And while the pandemic has created added pressures for many, like I've mentioned, children homeschooling, being at home when the children are at home more, having to cook more meals because more people are at home, there is also more flexibility on how best to adapt and use that time in the best way. So for business, it means consumers are looking even more for solutions with increased flexibility. They need products and services that can be accessed from or near their home at any time of day, and more online virtual services that bring those out of home experiences into the home. They want things that they can access at times that suit them. So it's really almost like they're looking for a 24-hour service. A couple of examples about how virtual online services can be of help to consumers in doing these things. The first one is an Indonesian health tech startup, Halodoc, that partnered with super app Gojek in March last year. It was set up to offer free virtual medical consultations for consumers at that point to check if their symptoms might be COVID related. So people were able to virtually chat with the doctor, and it's safe, it's convenient, and of course it's much quicker than having to go out and go to the surgery, the doctor's surgery. I think online health and virtual medical services are really starting to become the norm, and they really appeal to consumers' desire for flexible digital services that save them time and can easily be fitted in during their day. My other example is Taiwanese airline Starlux's Flight to Nowhere service. This initially took people on a virtual 3.5 hour, 1,300 miles sightseeing flight over parts of the South China Sea. With travel restrictions still in place, especially for long haul destinations, this really appeals to consumers' desire for adventure. And it's something they can do virtually at a time when suits them, maybe an evening, maybe a Saturday afternoon. And on top of that, for many consumers, not just restricted by time, but by finances or maybe even age or disabilities, virtual experiences like this means they can do so much more. They can travel further, they can visit places they never dreamed of. And just generally, like I say, they can do things they want to do but never thought they could. But it goes beyond this. Is consumers also just want traditional out-of-home experiences to be transferred into their homes, and so these virtual experiences of any type are going to continue to be important. They'll be popular, from whether it's tours of holiday destinations, theatre shows and events, through to cooking a restaurant quality meal online with chefs. Businesses really need to be innovative and appeal to consumers' desire to still experience everything, even if they can't actually be there. And they want to be doing it at times, any time that suits them.
Oh, thank you so much, Ali. I'm so ready for those experiences. Well, any experiences, actually. And now Maria, who leads on sustainability here at Euromonitor, takes up our final two trends.
Hi, Gina. Yeah, well, virtual experiences are a big part of our lives. Consumers are also looking for an outdoor oasis that allows for lower risk real-life social interaction. Open spaces enable them to reconnect safely beyond their digital bubbles for leisure, relaxation, socializing, and even work. However, it's true that keeping the recommended 2 meter 6 feet social distance is challenging, with green spaces becoming busier, especially in urban areas. This is creating a pandemic-driven exodus to the countryside. Actually, rural living is now an attractive option for those consumers looking for more space, affordable housing, and lower health risks. And obviously, with outdoor exercise being one of the few reasons people can leave their houses, going for a walk, a run, or a bike ride has become a frequent habit now. Being outdoors and physically active help consumers to cope with coronavirus stress and loneliness, while also keeping them safe and protecting others. As countries come in and out of lockdowns in line with their infection rates, consumers want to make the most of their limited outdoor experiences. So innovation for the 2 meter 6 feet society is booming. Businesses are getting very creative to stay open in the new normal, bringing the indoors outside, making the urban rural, from cozy igloos for dining and pods for exercising to drive-in services and apps that enable to keep a safe social distance when exploring the outdoors. Today, restaurants look very different. In Amsterdam, plant-based restaurant Mediamatic has set up a socially distant dining experience where consumers are sit in a kind of COVID-free eco greenhouses, and food is served on long wooden planks, and this avoid physical contact with the staff. And for those wanting to avoid the crowds when leaving their homes, Finnish watch manufacturer Suunto has launched heat maps. This is an app that helps consumers find less busy places and less busy routes, helping them to enjoy fresh air without this anxiety of contagion. COVID has been a catalyst to raise consumers' expectations that businesses need to do more for the society. Many of them no longer perceive businesses as purely profit-driven entities. While they understand that financial performance is important for businesses, they demand companies to care beyond revenue and help solve social problems. This new mindset is shifting consumers' behavior and corporate strategies. Today, conscious activism is on the rise, with both consumers and brands taking action to protect people and the planet. Consumers expect businesses to be more visible, more active, and to be more transparent. They are choosing to boycott brands that don't mirror their values, and they are switching to those that want to build back a better world, a world that feels fairer, greener, healthier, and more resilient. And businesses are responding with a set of social initiatives to support consumers, their employees, their suppliers, and even the wider society, local communities. And this strong interest on social issues will prevail in 2021 alongside a renewed focus on climate change. To remain relevant and profitable as demand for sustainable products increases, companies are breaking out the traditional sustainable innovation box. They are pushing the boundaries of product design and finding new ways to engage, to communicate, and to educate more ethical consumers. Businesses are starting now to measure and communicate their carbon footprint, and they are using carbon labeling on pack. Felix, one of the largest Nordic food companies, opened a pop-up climate store that was called Klimatbutiken to help consumers understand and decrease the climate impact of their weekly groceries. In this shop, products are priced according to their carbon footprint, their CO2 emissions, and consumers don't pay with money, they use CO2 equivalents. they have a budget or a limit of these CO2 equivalents they can spend per week. And this is a fantastic way to raise awareness and educate consumers about the impact of their purchases on the planet. And for those wondering how the future of food will taste, US-based startup Wildtype is growing seafood in a lab. This futuristic technology doesn't involve fishing or farming. The salmon is produced taking stem cells from a live animal without hurting the animal, obviously, and growing them in a lab. It is free from microplastic, antibiotic, toxic metals, and other contaminants. So this innovation opens new opportunities to tackle food security alongside the environmental impacts of food production. So two great innovations here.
Businesses need to add value to products and services to accommodate consumers. They need to provide multifunctional and affordable solutions. Brick and mortar stores and restaurants must reimagine their physical spaces to both accommodate online order fulfillment and incorporate space or open air components to bring back consumers safely. Tech and virtual experiences are driving consumer interactions, easing human connections online and in person. Cashless payments and click and collect services allow business to generate revenue whilst providing the safety and convenience that consumers want.
Yeah, so companies really need to continue to rethink their strategies. The focus needs to be on digital and remote experiences as restrictions and social distancing will continue to play a role this year. Also, social and environmental purpose-driven initiatives are increasingly important to consumers and will drive choices for many as we move through the year. And a consumer-centric strategy is needed. Business really need to connect with consumers emotionally, build their trust, gain their loyalty. And to do that, it's important to give them the facts, the truth. The reality is that never before have so many people been so willing to take action on issues. So business really do need to comply with these things. So I guess in summary, strategies need to be flexible, they need to be agile, they need to be transparent, and absolutely must incorporate technology in order to be future proof. We're still living with so many uncertainties. There's really a need to prioritize and reinforce consumer, environmental, and safety needs that speak to a brighter future. So to finish, we're just going to have a quick summary of the top trends just to reinforce them in your minds.
Build Back Better speak about a second chance to build a better future that is more respectful with the things that truly matters, the people we love and the planet we live on.
Craving convenience, from always available to pre-planned experience. Consumers are craving the convenience of the pre-pandemic world and finding new positives.
Outdoor oasis, open air gives trapped consumers an escape where they can enjoy anxiety-free fresh air.
Phygital reality, essentially digital and phygital worlds collide. Consumers are desiring blended experiences that provide them seamless opportunities to live, work, shop, and play wherever they choose to be based on their preferences, comfort, and convenience.
Playing with time is all about newfound flexibility, which is really switching up schedules. So business must adapt to consumers' new habits and new routines, providing solutions with flexibility and access anytime, anywhere.
Restless and Rebellious is all about people versus politicians. Nearly a year's worth of quarantines and stay at home orders mean that consumers, having suffered and gone without, are rebelling, putting their own needs and wants first.
Safety obsessed, priorities shift to safety and hygiene. This is the new wellness movement and will be a surefire consideration for everyone.
Shaken and Stirred is all about rising above adversity. Businesses that offer products and services that support resiliency, whether for mental well being or to help consumers weather adverse shocks, will gain trust from these consumers.
Thoughtful thrifters is essentially consumers thinking with a recessionary mindset. Consumers are prudent, and are looking for affordable, value for money propositions to better navigate the current crisis.
Workplaces in new spaces sees consumers recreating their office environment remotely. Remote work has become the norm for many, so it's about rethinking how to reach consumers at home and support employees' work-life balance.
One of those, I still want to take one of those flights that go nowhere. I think that's be fascinating to get on a flight and go nowhere. But anyways, we've got a few questions here regarding the shake and stir trend. Could you discuss the rising prominence of mental health concerns and the meaning for consumer goods? And I think, Ali, I think you might want to take this one.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, I guess the point here is that COVID has turned our worlds upside down, and we thought we'd be in this situation for a couple of months, but here we are still a year later. So there's a few things within this. We've all been fearful of infection, and that's still with us. And we've had our liberties taken away from us. And even as we come out of lockdowns, or in and out of lockdowns, should I say, the fear is keeping us cautious. People have been lonely, or they've been sharing really small spaces. They're having to homeschool, cook more. So it's really taken its toll on people's mental well-being. And so where we saw, mental health issues rising before COVID, they've just gone through the roof. But people are resilient, and if anything, I think it's made us a lot more aware of our mental health and finding ways to overcome it. So in terms of what it means for consumer goods is that there's more opportunities, and it's about helping consumers with products, with services that calm them, help them sleep, immunity, relaxation. So everything from functional foods and drinks to beauty products, sleep aids, supplements. I mean, supplement use has gone through the roof, right through to things even like cannabis infused products, which we're seeing more and more of. So again, like I say, food industry in particular, drinks, beauty products, as well as products for the home, they've become our new sanctuaries, and these all represent opportunities for people. But I think the other thing I'd just touch on, obviously, when David was talking about this trend, he showed the example of nostalgia. Nostalgia is really important in terms of supporting mental health issues and making people feel more comfortable. And the other thing is indulgence. People will indulge in products and services that make them feel good. So that could be everything from a designer bag, in a sale, of course, right through to premium beauty products that just make them feel better. So there are loads of opportunities from this trend for consumer goods.
Yeah, and I'll just say that as an association, we're seeing growth for the last 5 years, 10.2% as an industry, contract packaging, contract manufacturing. And what you just talked about, all these supplements and CBD and everything else to help people, we see a massive amount of that coming into our marketplace, into our members. The next question is, how do you build back better, evolving in the light of global recession for brands and packages, giving that sustainability? Can it be also associated with higher prices? And I think, Rosemarie, I think you might be able to tackle this one.
Okay, yes, thanks, Ron. Yeah, it's a good and valid question. Yeah, we can't forget we are in a deep recession, and we've heard value for money is going to be really a top priority for consumers this year, and caution in spending. But I suppose we can't look at this crisis as an excuse, as a reason not to act, on social injustices and on environmental progress. And we are seeing it. What's really positive is that there is that will to do better, and we're seeing that from consumers, countries, governments, and the corporate world too. And just a couple of areas, just that growth, that rise of consumer interest in sustainable products. So if we think about, but affordability has to be important too, because we're living with tightened budgets. So in foods, there's the really strong rise in plant-based alternative proteins, and the scale there and the rise in private label lines also supporting bringing down prices. Another area I think may be interesting also for your members too is packaging, and an important area if we think about sustainability, building back better, handling packaging waste, ensuring reuse circularity. Brands have had their sustainable packaging roadmaps even pre-pandemic, but what we're seeing is a commitment to, you know, sticking to those targets and even doing better. We're seeing carbon neutrality coming into play as well, increased use of post-recycled resin, and putting that on pack too, as consumers are increasingly interested in circularity and knowing that that product isn't going to end up in a landfill somewhere. So just a couple of examples just to prove the point that this trend is not going away anytime soon. Building that better is really important, you know, for consumers and for the corporate world.
Yeah, sustained near and dear to my heart for almost 45 years, so I hear where you're coming. Now, David, I think relating to the restless and rebellious, I really like that phrase. Of course, in the United States, we could be a little careful here. Rebellious can mean a lot of different things. Should brands respond to social unrest, and how?
I think without a doubt, modern consumers in 2021 are as politically and socially conscious as ever, right? However, saying the right thing or simply standing in solidarity may no longer, it might not be enough anymore. I think consumers want the brands they support to actually back up those platitudes with actual action. According to our Euromonitor's 2021 lifestyle survey, nearly 40% of respondents expect increased political and social unrest in the future. And nearly a third of consumers support boycotting brands that don't align with their values. So this is a relevant question. This is a relevant moment. After George Floyd's death last year, some brands in the US posted brief messages of support and solidarity on social media. Others launched full-scale multi-channel marketing campaigns. Regardless of what is decided, companies should proceed with care when commenting on current events. I also think authenticity in marketing has always been a best practice, but it becomes even more important now. So that might mean being humble. It might mean owning up to mistakes and taking steps to remedy a wrong. So CSR work is a great way to choose actions rather than words, for example.
We're at time, but I'm going to continue a little bit, and if we keep people on, we keep people on. Just real quick, I want to follow up on this. Do you see the evolution of potentially brands aligning with segments and not necessarily being a full brand, let's say national rollout, but certain segments fit their values and others do not, and other people support them? Just curious if we'll see that kind of stratification.
I think we already are. I think popular brand names are already staking out a position in what you call the culture wars in the United States. Brands are trying to be as inclusive and diverse as possible. There are political boycotts, I think, in effect. Every month you hear something on the radio or whatever. It's all marketing. Sometimes you have to be careful. I guess in the example of Euromonitor, I like to say that you know, beyond just simple platitudes, CSR work, actions, volunteering in your communities, giving back, showing that a company is more than just actions is incredibly powerful. And I think that's probably the best route that a company can take.
Okay, good, thank you. Another question: in the world full of indoor restrictions, the outside world has become the only way for many people to keep active and socially active. How do you expect this trend to evolve in a COVID-free, controlled world? And I think Allison and Rosemary, you guys are going to tackle this one.
Yeah, maybe I can start with this. I guess, you know, even as we've have vaccinations and hopefully get COVID under control across different countries, like I've said before, there's this lasting cautiousness and there's this mindset now of what's next. You know, we've had this massive shock, and And so, you know, we will stay fearful for quite some time. And the other thing is, we've been doing things differently for over a year, and it doesn't take long for new habits to form. So these newer outdoor habits are sticking. So I think for a few years at least, we'll still be wanting to do more outside and in more spacious environments. And we are seeing across cities that they are continuing to invest in more, you know, outside and more spacious environments. So, you know, cities are investing in more cycle lanes so people don't have to use so much public transport, more pedestrian areas, and more space for socializing outdoors. And on top of that, people are moving out of cities into more rural areas, so that, you know, more open areas, so they can easily access outside space, as well as being more affordable as well. So yeah, we'll see. We'll just see that continue. And what it means for business is that they have to think a bit longer term about how to reach consumers in, you know, in these new spaces, be that sort of online, or think about their logistics and how they get to them. And we see, you know, companies, coffee shops, coffee chains, for example, relocating to more suburbs and more rural areas to be able to be on people's doorsteps. So it's all about innovating for safe socializing. And yeah.
I think maybe just to add to that as well, Ali, you know, what you've said there about safe socializing as well. We've seen some innovations there too, like the contactless vending, Coca-Cola Freestyle machines, so that you're not having to press that machine for your drink when you're out and about. You can do it via a QR code on your phone. And Costa Coffee is doing the same thing here in the UK as well. And also just we're seeing direct to consumer food service. So that's almost an opportunity as well, and having that packaged, but also on demand home delivery. So it'll be that balance. So it might be for outside the home, maybe in a park, or you're wanting something delivered that you're maybe socializing out in your garden, because there is that thing about being outdoors because it's a safe still place to be, you know, whilst coronavirus is around us.
Yeah, one of the key things that we see, and I'm going to add, because I got a question here from somebody texted to me, talking about the work from home piece, or the, you know, workforce, you know, redeployment, however you want to call it. Do we see that to be more restrictive in the future, or are we going to be more flex time? You know, you talked about in the presentation some back in the office, but any back in the office can be disruptive, let's face it. So how do you guys see it, or what are the trends you guys kind of see from that?
Well, we've been talking a lot about this kind of hybrid model. So for sure, people, you know, well, companies want people back in the office, and for, you know, there's those people who are very comfortable at home, want to continue working at home, it works better for them. But, you know, going back to that shaken and stirred trend, you know, there are those who are desperate to get back to the office. They're anxious at home. They're on, you know, they haven't got the space. They, you know, they've got too many distractions. So, but the reality is, I think we'll see, you know, companies where we have been working at home will be offering more flexibility, but also encouraging people back into the office, but sort of rethinking those office spaces as well. You know, obviously, you know, there will be more spacious, but what is the office going to be used for in the future? And it's probably going to be for things like, you know, collaboration, meetings, rather than just doing your day-to-day work. So for sure, we're saying, you know, much more a hybrid model, but not, you know, permanent like we're doing now. There's a nice middle ground somewhere.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, we've really gone over, and it's great. I want to thank the three of you. Two of you, I know it's late at night. You know, you're probably going to have your cup of tea and go to bed or something like that. You know, David, I know he's still got some things going. But I'd like to thank all of you for being on the line so late and helping us out here. And I want to thank the audience for being on the presentation also. And again, our sponsor, Vicing Masaryk, for their support, and the gift sponsor, Laco Tool. And I want everybody to understand, don't forget, we still have 2 more sessions on our virtual experience. The next one is May 18th at 2 o'clock. The session will be titled The Story Behind the Temp Agency. We're going to take a little revealing look at labor issues and what we face in today's new environment by somebody who's fighting that battle on a day-to-day basis. So on behalf of the Contract Packaging Association, myself and our 3 guests today, thank you all for attending. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Take care.
everyone.